Thank you for joining us again at the University of Karate. Again, we're here with Mike Biddle, and we're looking at another topic, a similar topic to one we've looked at before, but we're just going a little bit farther with it. We did a series or a talk not too long ago dealing with Uechi-ryu, hard and soft. We talked about the idea of being half hard, half soft. Is it half hard and half soft? This talk that we're having today, we're looking at Uechi-ryu, too hard, too soft. Uechi-ryu, too hard, too soft. We were talking a little bit before we got here to record, and we were talking about the fact that Uechi-ryu generally, as it's been practiced in many parts of the world, even North America and the various places you may go, you see the very strong emphasis on hard, even hard to the degree where it's seemingly too hard, too rigid. You don't see the blending, the half of hard and half of soft, this perfect union. And now, here, 40 years later for Sensei Biddle, 30 years later for myself, it seems like Uechi seems to be in many respects too soft, or you're losing some of the tension, and you're seeming to have less conditioning and less emphasis on form and the watering down of the original style that we remember so many years ago. And that caused us to have a desire to talk about this concept of too hard, too soft. Now looking at, is it too soft? Is it too hard? Sensei Biddle was talking a little bit about something I want to expand here, and we're going to talk about it together. He made the statement that if you take Uechi-ryu and you take Tai Chi, they're both going in the same direction from different points. Two different directions, two different areas, two different sides, left, right, but they're all going to the same direction. One coming from a soft, one coming from a hard, but they both ideally are too hard, they both ideally are half hard, half soft. I want to let Sensei Biddle explain that and kind of open that up to our mind as we talk about this topic this morning.
Okay, so drawing on our first video where we talked about half hard, half soft, I mentioned that it was both, where with proper dynamic tension, you have an equal stability of hard and soft. And as John has alluded to, we've seen over the years this propensity to try to overemphasize, let's say, the hardness, or what some would call tiger, where they are really tense and trying to be explosive. And then even you see now Master Matson is trying to bring back some of the other levels of it, which has been, he's seen that it's gone too far. And then with anything, if it goes too far, sometimes it goes the wrong way and we get too soft. So the half hard, half soft, if you think of the functional movements in any of the kata, like the video of Master Uechi when he's moving, you see that dynamic tension. You don't see the stiffness. You don't see the tightness of the muscles overly so, where they get too tight and that it inhibits the actual movement in the pattern. So, but you can't become a noodle. And I've heard people say, and let me just use an anecdotal from, let's say, the golf swing, where a lot of teachers try to say, well, you have to be more relaxed in the golf swing. And there's nothing more farther from the truth. Tiger Woods was never soft. And no professional golfer swinging at 120 miles an hour is soft. But the important idea of that is, where are they soft and where are they hard? In order to create movement, one muscle has to move and another one has to relax. That's how muscles work. They work against resistance, whether it's an object or it's itself. If you move your arm and you do a bicep curl, for example, your bicep contracts and your tricep relaxes. That's half hard, half soft. One half of your body has to relax and the other half of the body has to harden up or tighten up. So let's put that into the concept that we're talking about. In order to move, you have to be half hard, half soft. It's just a natural thing. So In order to punch, you have to extend the arm, and the muscles that contract and would withdraw the punch have to be relaxed. And San Chin training is interesting because we're learned to, when we draw the arm back, we resist that with tension. And that tension that we're resisting is the muscles that control the contraction of the arm. Now, when we blast the arm forward with proper technique, I must say, but I don't want to go into that now, then the muscles that retract the arm are completely relaxed, and the only muscle activated is the one that's extending. So the process of doing the half hard, the resistance, the dynamic tension, is training the body how to control those muscles and turn them on or off, which I mean relaxed or contracting. I like the word on-off because in order to fully understand the explosion of a punch, the ones that extend the arm are on, and the ones that contract the arm are off. And then when you pull the arm back, it's reversed. So half hard, half soft is both techniques being utilized at the same time. And the training is such that over time, because you're able to understand the movement patterns, the dynamic tension, so there's always a little tension in the movement. Anytime you're moving, you should always have some level of tension. If you're trying to do too much tension, then you can't move. You can't turn it off enough. So if you're somewhere in between, half hard, half soft, it's like cold water, hot water, or lukewarm. So we're talking about lukewarm. It's a mixture of both. So while I'm moving, if my muscles are half hard, half soft, meaning some level of tension that exists in them, if a strike comes toward me and it hits my arm, because I've trained it to tense in those circumstances, it's going to tense properly very quickly. I'm not going from soft to hard. I'm going from half hard, or let's say lukewarm, to hard. Then if I want to move the other direction, I just reverse that process. The in-between gets you to each end quicker than starting from one end and getting to the other. Now, the idea, I don't know if I've said enough on that, but hopefully that makes sense. But you can't be a noodle, and you also can't be a steel bar. But you can be one or the other at different points in time. How you get there is the in-between. Ideally, the ultimate, and we won't have time to go too far, but this goes to the Tai Chi idea, is you're going from one point and getting to another at the end of the journey. There's never an end, but let's say the most advanced levels of the journey, you're getting to the same place, and that's energy transfer, energy movement. Learning how the body moves and how that energy is shifted and moved around. And we're going to talk about this very briefly because we can go into this another time with intent. And that intent comes from training the mind and the central nervous system to do what it needs to do when it needs to do it. And the body moving efficiently with the proper use of energy in the proper direction and the proper timing. The patterns that we learn with the kata and the forms teach us how to move, what movements are effective for certain types of situations or circumstances. A circle block. In a pure form, the circle block is a very simple movement, but it's the most effective against an incoming punch because it redirects it and it controls it. So we learn those patterns, and I'm going to say it now, but I want to come back to this at some later date. We learn all the patterns and all these sequences in the kata to someday abandon them. And yes, I said exactly what I said. You won't need them. You've programmed your body knows the movements, they're no longer necessary to be done. And in a self-defense situation, your body's going to do what it knows to do because you've given it the freedom to do. You've given it permission. Now, I'm going to stop on that now. That's something for later. But back to the Tai Chi idea. So Uechi-ryu starts with an emphasis more on hard in initial process is that you're working in a very hard structure. You're getting tested, you're getting punched, you're getting tested because you're learning, you're teaching the body how to react to the situation. So when someone's hitting your arms, kicking your thighs, striking you in the back, it's not conditioning. It's teaching. It's teaching how to keep that muscle tense and how to dynamically keep that muscle tense so when that impact comes, it can be tightened to resist the impact. It's training. Through time, you don't need that anymore. Just like we talked about with conditioning in a prior one, this is sort of a summary of all three in a way, where if you're beating on your arm with a bar, you don't need to do that. If you do the forms properly, your body will learn to do that. I don't need to do arm pounding anymore, and I can still take a blow, a significant blow on my forearms or anywhere in my body, and I don't do any sort of conditioning whatsoever. Now, can I break 2x2s on my forearms anymore? Probably not. But do I need to do that? No. I need to be strong enough to deflect the blow. And again, I don't want to use resistance against resistance. I want to use redirection, which is the antithesis of the circle block and the movement patterns that we have. Now, Tai Chi, on the other hand, starts on the very soft end of the scale and works through the same process, getting the person and the student into understanding how their body moves and the ability to create lack of tension. And again, it's the same thing. If I create lack of tension, my body learns how to do that side of it, and then it also understands the yin-yang, the other side, to do the concentration of tension and make it harder. And in the advanced levels, as they progress, the mind begins to understand that. And ultimately, they get to the same point.
One thing I just want to throw in here before we close out this segment is we had talked about the idea of half hard, half soft. And you had mentioned the form. The form itself is doing the work. And we were talking about how if you actually stood in the Sanchin stance with your knees bent the way that Sanchin bends the knees, and you tuck the hips forward, and you have the shoulders brought down correctly. They're not just up and around your ears. They're brought down correctly. The elbows are in. The hands are out, taut. The thumbs in the right position. The chin is back. The head is erect. All those points of structure actually create a certain amount of tension that you don't need much more except the intent being prepared for a conflict. And if you did more than that, if you really tighten your body down, then it's not half hard, half soft. It's really too hard to really react. Is that correct, having that?
Yes. I mean, if you just think about like the Sanchin position, to put your joints and body in those certain positions, you're going to create some level of tension. And if you just think about, like what John said, if you get yourself in the correct form, the elbows in, the hands in the right position, the hips tucked underneath, and you contract the right muscles, if just putting yourself into those positions will create a level of tension. That is probably the tension you want to keep when you start moving. Remember Kenbun said that he learned the opening of Sanchin and all he did was that for 3 months. And we have to imagine why. Because they wanted him to understand those positions so well, and it would create the dynamic tension that's necessary, that's proper to be applied in the rest of the kata as it's progressed.
We're going to put a comma here. We don't want to give you too much at one time, but I think this was a very, very interesting and enlightening discussion on these topics. You are with the University of Karate. We studied the various points of history, some things concerning science and physics and culture, and even delving into even some of the effects, mental and physical, that play into the not only self-defense aspects of martial arts, but also the history and the the principles that underlie these disciplines. We're here with Mike Biddle, and we're going to see you at our next conversation. Stay tuned. Please subscribe and like this video. Thank you so much.